Welcome to everyone joining us today, and welcome to the panelists, Kevin, Murray, and Bijan. Excited to have a conversation with you today about your journeys in Scale Up, both personally as well as for the companies that you're with now. And I think maybe it sounds like we're going to try to tackle the capital issue that some of our folks have identified. So maybe to kick off, let's just start with Erica gave great introductions, but if each of you could talk to us a little bit more about each of your companies and what the scale-up journey has looked like. We do have companies that span from sort of seed rounds to public companies, and I think that'll be an interesting level set for our audience. So maybe, Kevin, can we start with you and with Charli AI?
That sounds good. Thanks, Tiffany. Thanks, Erica, for the introduction, and good to be here. So we're in the seed to Series A stage, and raising capital is certainly top of mind for us as well. We have had to do it. If you think of our journey from where we started, you can follow our path with all of the blood trail along the way. Like a lot of startups, it can be painful to raise money. It can be painful to find your product market fit. And that's no different than the journey we've gone through with Charli. We had the initial concept. From that initial concept, we had to determine what our product market fit was, and product market fit was not easy. It meant a lot of different pivots, and those pivots can also get in the way of raising capital. But you've got to be able to navigate the pivots. You've got to be able to make those micro adjustments. I found in the past, founders aren't recognizing when they have to make an adjustment or a pivot, but that's fundamental, especially on your journey when you're trying to go from that seed stage to even a Series A and looking at raising the various funds. We have had to do that with Charli. Charli now is becoming that automated analyst for Wall Street. We figured out that we can actually take a lot of the grunt work that junior bankers, analysts are doing. We can analyze it with AI. So it wasn't enough for us to just be in the world of innovation for AI. We had to find a product market fit and solve a very real problem for a very real customer that was willing to pay. And that became important for raising capital as well. So unless you're finding a sweet spot on customers that are willing to pay for your product, it can be hard to raise capital. And I know we'll talk about that as we're moving forward, but it certainly has been a long journey. I heard from one of the co-founders at Charli AI just this week, startups will move slow until they don't. And that's something to keep in mind.
Thanks, Kevin. That was great perspective. And so Charli was founded in 2019, and your team's about just over 30 people. Is that right?
It is, yes.
Okay, great, awesome. Maybe from there, Murray, do you want to tell us a little about D-Wave and its journey to being it's a public company, so a little bit different.
Yeah, absolutely. So D-Wave Quantum Incorporated is the world's leader in the development and delivery of quantum computing systems, software, and services. And that's really our technology focus. But the interesting thing is we're scaling up here is that from our customers' perspective, we're a world leader in helping them to solve some important business optimization challenges in logistics, in supply chain management, and in manufacturing. So there's, a story to kind of tell there about as you're kind of growing, as a technology company, you kind of, if your technology is really enabling for a business capability, you come to be known for that business capability more than the technology itself. The company was founded in 1999 by 4 folks in BC and a couple of folks who spun out of UBC. And we basically progressed all the way to the point where we went public in August of 2022. We have a number of customers who are using our quantum computers for applications that they're working on, and not just like doing proof of concepts, but actually using those systems in production. And we also have a science result recently, that a science result out about our quantum computing system. So just to kind of give everyone a bit of an idea, a quantum computer is basically a device that can accelerate calculations by leveraging quantum effects. So the quantum effects are like a resource for the computer that regular computers don't have. And we've recently been able to publish results on the archive where we were able to do calculations in 20 minutes that would take over 1 million years on a classical supercomputer. So we're really talking about like very transformative impact in terms of moving into a space where we can solve problems that classical computers and humans aren't able to do. Yeah, that's a little bit about D-Wave. We're a little over 200 companies. We've got nearly 80 commercial customers. Over 24 of them are on the Forbes Global 2000 list. We're not an integrator of other people's technologies. We've actually developed a lot of the technologies necessary for building quantum computing systems here in BC.
Wow. I mean, 20 minutes to do 1 million years worth of work is kind of that might be the stat to beat. But thanks for sharing that story with us, Marie. And Bijan, your story is a little bit different. You're also sort of in the earlier phases, but you have a long history in BC Tech. So why don't you tell us a little about INETCO and its
Yeah,
journey?
sure. I'd start off by saying, like Kevin, we're sort of between seed and A. We're roughly the same size in terms of people as well. We started our journey in 1984, so it's been a while, and we were in the payments arena in '84. Pre-internet days, you had to connect ATM machines back then with banks through telecom networks. So expertise in the company, real-time operating systems, and a lot of financial protocols and networking protocols. Tons of expertise on that front, which is what the core capability within the company is that we leverage. The whole, in that world, we accumulated 400 customers around the world. Did really well. We had the entire transaction backbone of Australia on our network. Telstra's Argent platform is still operating today. That is powered by INETCO's transaction gateway, intelligent gateway on their backbone. So tons of expertise, knowledge, as I said. You fast forward to the 90s and the mass adoption of the internet, and these protocols all fall away. And when we started, we was driven by our customers, and at that point, we were again driven by our customers in the 90s, when the customers are coming to us saying, we're stopping getting support from you for your existing systems because we're going to the internet, but we're losing visibility. So a light bulb moment for us. We pivoted, we took the technology and the IP knowledge we had, turned this on its head, and created the birth of the Insight platform, which is what we have today, and started giving them visibility out of band without being in the network, giving them the visibility they needed. And it's all about speed. Again, the real-time operating system. We're talking in our world milliseconds, nanoseconds. It's not about seconds, minutes, days, bits. That's not real time. So with that switch, in Canada, we gained customers. Probably one of the earlier customers, large in Canada, people would recognize as Moneris. So Moneris came on board with us as a customer, and we started adding globally again customers on that vein, and building the platform out and filling the platform in. And as I go through the story again, we had another sort of deep capability being built into the system, because customers started realizing the data that we're acquiring is highly granular and actionable. They realized they could use it very effectively for fraud and cybersecurity and other really high value use cases. So we went another step deeper, and we created what is now the Bullseye platform that we released in the fall of 21, and that has led to the scaling. Our ARR has grown 100% 2 years in a row. It's settling down to about 50+% right now, and this is with the same team leveraging a network of partners around the globe that are essentially extensions of our business, if you will. And with a small team, we're having a big effect globally, adding customers like Discover Cards in the United States, adding customers like Santander Bank in the UK. So some major global customers coming on board, and building on that and scaling on that.
Thank you for that. What I'm hearing you say is that these are smaller teams, between under 500 people cumulatively between everyone on the panel. And so really, I think, the key to a lot of the success of these companies really comes down to the people, right? And so, we saw in the poll that talent is one of the areas of concern, not quite as much as, I guess, capital at this point, but that makes sense. But maybe can we talk a little bit about what are the types of trends you're seeing within the acquisition of talent for your teams, especially as you're looking to scale? You've got global customers and the like. And so what has worked well for each of your teams, and what are some of the challenges that you have been facing?
I don't know if maybe I can start. INETCO has been a bit of a Hotel California, where employees come and never leave. So we've had people straight out of university. They've been there a long time, and we've been very lucky adding talent through our networks, our own personal networks, as well as through customers that we've worked with, people coming to us. It is a really a interesting area for folks to work in. It is a very interesting problem set we're solving, we haven't had, touch wood, we've been lucky in having an exciting area to work in and attracting people through our networks.
Well, what I would say on talent from a D-Wave's perspective, I mean, it's a pretty common experience when people are approaching quantum computing and quantum mechanics, where they're kind of like, I don't know what this is. In fact, Richard Feynman was famous for saying, if you think you understand quantum mechanics, you don't understand quantum mechanics. So when we're acquiring talent at D-Wave, we're really thinking about this from the perspective of having a culture of being both teachers and learners. So we're bringing in people who have expertise, and they're going to help teach other folks at D-Wave about the things that they're bringing into the company. But then also they're going to be learning from us and learning about how to solve problems and the expertise specifically they need for the problems that D-Wave is facing. So we're looking for talented individuals as much as possible who have experience in areas related to what we're working on, but who have a demonstrated ability to go into a new area, master it, and then start solving problems into it. So that's where, when you see folks graduating from PhD programs, a PhD program basically says, I can enter a new field and in 3 years make a major fundamental discovery in that space. So we're looking for folks both with those accredited degrees and also applied degrees and engineering degrees and otherwise who have demonstrated some ability to do that. I would say that in the quantum computing space and in the application, quantum application development space, we're about to enter this era where there's going to be this major talent shortage, very much the way we saw with machine learning. So anytime some really powerful technology suddenly becomes easy to use, like we've seen with artificial intelligence, then you get a lot of people moving into the space. And so then you have a large community of users with 6 months or 12 months of experience, and not very many users who have been using it for a long time. So, we're trying to engage, I think, with governments around the world to help set up sort of upskilling programs for people to learn how to program our systems, because quantum computers themselves, there's going to be people working at D-Wave on the technology itself, but there's a much larger community out in the world who are going to be using these to solve problems, to write software, to build applications, to tackle logistics and manufacturing problems. So we really have that wider view of the talent shortage as well.
Just to jump on what Murray said, because we're in the world of AI, and it's an interesting arena to go and find talent in the world of AI. The nice thing is we've been able to find that in Vancouver, and it's all here. Our entire team is here from a data science perspective and an engineering perspective. So there is top talent in the BC market, which is nice, and we can tap into. One of the things that we have found from a struggle is finding the talent that understands the world of AI, but can apply it in real world use cases. And we have leveraged a recruiter that I've known for 15 years that knows us intimately, who can find us top talent. And we wrangle him all the time. We can tap into our own network, but we also look at diversifying from our own network, and we've purposely done that as a strategy to find fresh blood that can come in and keep the innovation moving. The biggest challenge we find on talent is that you have to learn to fail fast with talent. And we had somebody come in recently that self-exited within a day. And that's not my first experience around that. We did that at BitStew as well, because you have to know that that talent can fit with your culture and can keep pace with the company that's moving, especially if you're a startup. You need to know how to fail fast with the talent, and you need to figure out when to pull that trigger and do the exit if it's not working out. But ahead of time, even on the interviews, Elham Alipur is our chief scientist, and she's brilliant. And she sets up tests to make sure that even the data scientists, if you're a data scientist, you're still not going to make the grade. You're still not going to understand AI. And she sets up very real tests to say, can you figure out how to solve this problem, but also apply it? And that's become part of the trick. On the flip side of it, we've found it hard in one area, and that's marketing. And for the life of me, we're still trying to figure that one out. So if anybody's got ideas on how to figure out how to get the top marketing talent in our office, that would be great. I'm all ears.
Well, I'm sure there are some folks probably in our audience who may have some ideas, or who maybe they're right for the job itself. Kevin, are you open to having folks that are working remotely for that kind of activity? I guess, is it really important for your team to be based in Vancouver?
We are open to remote. Having said that, though, the power of in-person, I still can't get away from that. I know even for some organizations that struggle to get people back in the office, we have a really good office culture, and we're doing hybrid. So it's a Tuesday, Thursday, but that Tuesday, Thursday is very powerful for people to talk. And I think it's important for the marketing to talk to the engineers and talk to the scientists. So ideally in person or in Vancouver.
Actually, that's an interesting idea around the talent piece. And maybe just to Murray and Bijan, like, do you guys, do you have, I presume, some level of hybrid work environments? Because I know you have team members that are located outside Vancouver. What is your guys' strategy in terms of for talent sort of retention and things like that? What are you seeing in terms of what people are looking for? I've heard some people are saying, I won't come to work ever. I've heard people say, I have to come into work. And then, of course, there's the hybrid thing. So what kind of trends are you seeing?
We've got our engineering, we have our engineering all in Vancouver, but we have gone remote for our professional services. And our engineering is and professional services, we're, as I said earlier, we're really fortunate, and we've been staffed really well. Both people leaving customer sites, joining our team, people but with customers' knowledge and blessing, not poaching them, and also from our networks. With the comment Kevin made that I just want to resonate on is the sales and marketing is now it's time for us to scale, and the sales and marketing is where our focus is, and we are really working hard to try and get that right. And we can use all the advice in the world. We don't have a technology deficit, if you will, if I could say that. We're well stocked there, and we have a good pool. We are challenged as we're trying to reconfigure for the go-to-market. For ours, in Vancouver, 3 days a week is what we require people to be in the office, and it's primarily the management team. We don't just put that rigor on the developers. The developers have their own cadence, but the leadership of the development team is in on those 3 days. So 3 days a week, it's in office, everybody hands-on, and I think that's critical. Any of the functions we put that are remote are going to be in either a PS function or likely a sales and marketing.
I think, I mean, so much has changed. I mean, I certainly, kind of like Bijan was saying, I was working with our customers before the pandemic, and you have to be out where your customers are. They're not located at your head office. So we had to get out. And certainly we had a lot of focused effort and people based here in Vancouver. Obviously during the pandemic, everybody was remote, but we're building hardware. So the people who are actually working on the hardware themselves needed to be able to come in. So the more people who could work remote, the fewer people they were interacting with in the office. I think that we've done surveys to talk to our internal teams. We're really trying to take an approach based on what the teams themselves they find is actually helpful. Obviously, for our professional services team, our customer-facing team, we've got people around the world in Europe, in Japan, and throughout North America. But we also saw stratification within the groups. So there was a lot of, individuals who had families who found that the flexibility of hybrid work really helped them to be more productive in their work and to be able to have time on their own. There were folks who found that their time was better spent. So particularly senior individual contributors found that they were much more productive working from home, whereas junior staff and managers had a harder time. The junior staff were looking for mentorship and pair programming, and they couldn't get it. And the managers are trying to keep a whole program coordinated. So there's challenges and benefits to it. And so we kind of put the conversation to each of the individual teams to work out what's working for them and making sure that they're mentoring the junior folks, the senior folks can be productive, and then the whole program itself can stay coordinated and finding the fit that works for them. Obviously for software versus like engineering cryogenic systems, that balance turns out to be different. But I think taking the heterogeneous approach has been the right one for us.
I think this is really insightful, especially for, I think, as companies are trying to scale, to understand what are the different factors and helping them decide what is the right configuration for their teams. And in fact, that there are in fact likely to be very customizable situations that have to be created in order to, you attract talent for different reasons, but retention of talent is also key, especially as, to your point, when things start to heat up and, you've had folks for a while and then they could maybe easily go to other groups. Why did they stay? Is because of that sort of mixture of the environment works well for them and the work they do is really meaningful. So thanks so much for those insights. Shifting to I guess the one that's on folks' mind is around capital. So maybe we can talk a little bit about some of the financial milestones that have sort of contributed to each of your group's success. Maybe a look forward into the sorts of things you think will be important, and I don't know, some advice for some of our folks online in terms of how you address that. I know I think thematically everyone has talked a lot about being able to pivot. So I'd love to hear what some of those pivots look like. And then I think I'm also hearing a lot around educating. So making sure people understand what it is you do, why it is you're doing it, what's the value of that, both maybe in that short period and maybe the long period, depending on who. So putting that to the group, and maybe Kevin, let's start with yours. I think you have some experience from, Charli's like you said, a seed stage, but you have a past that had some interesting exits that were not the traditional IPO route. So maybe you could share some of that with us.
Prior to Charli, I was the CEO and co-founder of Bits2 Systems in Vancouver. We exited back in 2016 to GE. It was an M&A. The interesting part around that was M&A was our strategy. And that's what founders really have to have, both on raising capital. You have to have an eye to what your exit strategy is going to be, because you have to play to an M&A. It just doesn't happen. It can, but that's more we wanted to be bought, not sold. And the idea around that is, become extremely attractive so that somebody wants to come in and buy you, and there's a competitive market to do the acquisition. So that was our play. And in order to do that, we did make some pivots because we were starting off as a horizontal platform, and then we found a vertical to go into, what was the industrial Internet of Things. And that took off, and we were ecstatic about that. We still had a lot of work to do, but we had to set up various partnerships, and setting up those partnerships also meant we were looking at capital. And that capital can come from different places. It doesn't necessarily have to come from VCs. You can target strategics. If you're in the industrial space, you can target the GEs and the Siemens like we did. If you're in healthcare, it could be a different. So strategics are another good form of raising capital. They're less price sensitive. Sometimes they won't lead around, but they'll certainly bring the financial VC along. But that was what the strategy was at Bits2. At Charli, we're looking at potentially the same, but leaning more towards the financial side of it. But we are now in the world of financial services, and that's purpose-built. Again, if you're looking at raising capital, a lot of the VCs today prefer vertically aligned rather than horizontal plays, because it's reducing their risk, and they're risk adverse, especially in this economy. I joke that the VCs change the goalposts as much as they change their underwear. You never know what the gates are to get through and get around. And it's frustrating in this economy. So we are looking at both strategics, but we're also looking at financial VCs. And the key from a pivot perspective for us is we failed in the early days on our go-to-market strategy, but we did find a sweet spot in the financial world with enterprise. And we have shifted now into a go-to-market strategy that is more a combination of product-led growth and sales-led growth. And that's resonating with an audience, even on the VC side. If I could just end it up, one of the biggest lessons learned from a capital perspective, especially in today's economy, be lean, extraordinarily lean. If you want to raise money, you better have low operating expenses, and that could be your salaries. You need to operate extremely lean, leaner than you think. So much so that we have recently reduced our staff by about 30%. Now, we didn't affect anything on engineering data science because we're in the world of deep tech and AI, but we really had to go lean and stretch the runway. So what's your cash out date? It's a little different in a public company. It's still the same. Cash is cash. So for anybody that's a founder and wears the CEO hat, it doesn't stand for Chief Executive Officer. Get rid of that idea. It stands for Cash Extraction Officer. And it's all about the money. So when are you running out and when are you going to need more?
It's interesting. Given the audience we have, we've got folks, starting up companies and, scaling up companies and looking about how to positively impact the economy. I mean, capital is incredibly important. I'm not surprised it's on everybody's mind because this is a very lean time right now with interest rates going up. I think, I've mentored a lot of startups with the CDL program in Toronto. And, I think the key thing is, make sure you're very conscious of what phase you're in, and that you're raising capital, like, exactly why you're raising capital and for what purpose. There's a lot of folks in high technology who are kind of like, they're like, oh, my product is done, but they haven't got product market fit. They might start hiring a go-to-market team, but they don't have good product market fit. And then you're spending your capital in the wrong places for the wrong reasons. So make sure you get your product out there, get some kind of engagement, like paid engagement, not free proof of concept engagement, before you start going into growing your go-to-market, because that, to Kevin's point, allows you to be as lean as possible and focus in the areas you need to be focused on. And, the other thing is that, like, I find it very rare for somebody to actually like execute and exit in the timescales that a VC would like, which is like 18 months to 2 years or something like that. Maybe if you can do it that fast, you can fit within a cycle of something happening in the broader market space and the availability of cash. But if you're longer than that, then you're likely going to go through both a lean and a growth cycle when cash is easier to get and cash is harder to get. So make sure that you're kind of looking at what's in the market and making sure you focus on your growth or your lean operating, is Kevin sort of saying, in tune with what's happening in that market. And, I find that the most important thing, well, two key things when I'm talking to folks who provide funding is that they're investing in the people. They want to know that you can solve problems, read the market, and adapt to the market and build something that's going to bring people value, that you're focused on value building. And the second point I was going to make was, even if you don't necessarily hit your goals, make sure you made tangible progress, that you understood what you've learned in the last months, that you've made progress, that you can demonstrate that you've developed your thinking and understanding, because that's going to be core in terms of getting people kind of re-engaged and understanding how you can make progress quickly in your space, because it's very difficult to set extremely ambitious goals and hit them every time. So, making tangible progress, keeping your investors informed about what you're learning and the insights that you have in the business and you're watching the business, I think is really key.
So with me, I'm gonna. UB Video was my last exit prior to coming to INETCO, and UB Video was a video compression company. M&A thesis, very much again like Kevin described. We planned it. We really did think about it and plan it. We were two founders that were technology. They were video compression folks that joined the company from UBC, and myself. So essentially ran UB Video. Texas Instruments came in as a strategic. Kevin, they were the strategic guys who wrote the check and came in. We developed the video compression technology and filed patents like crazy. We advanced video compression and MPEG-LA are two standards. People probably won't recognize them on the phone, but they're two standards that enable streaming on the internet. Today, they would be, they're foundational to the streaming that happens over the internet today. And we had half the patents in the patent pool there. And at that point, Scientific Atlanta started deploying the gear in Cablehead, and Cisco, who had acquired Scientific Atlanta, said, and this is again the point Kevin made, which is absolutely right, you don't want to sell yourself, you want to be bought. And they came to the table and said, no, no, you guys need to be part of this. So you can sort of plan it that way. With INETCO, it was a different scenario. We had revenue. We started, had some revenue coming in. And our plan is always to augment that revenue with angel capital. So we made it hard on ourselves because angel capital is not that available. I can tell you we just closed another round a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, and we were fortunate in this market. It was a good amount of work to get that done. And we've always sort of complemented in this business the revenue with the raise that we've needed to sort of propel us to the next stage. There's risks with that, and the risk is that, as I said, angel is not. We've got 30 million in angel capital in us in Vancouver. Raising 30 million in angel capital equity is not an easy task. So you have to pick. I think you have to plan your corporate strategy as much as you plan your business and what the business does. One other comment I just want to leave here is that we've always been led by the customer. When I told you that story about the pivots we did, it was the customer, it was our banks, the clients at the banks, the infrastructure, the senior guys at the back end who pulled us along and basically showed us the way. And I think that is critical. Whenever we've raised funding in both TV video and here actually, in INETCO, especially in INETCO, that has resonated enormously with the investors. It's the ability for those customers to stand up and stand up for you and just espouse how differentiated you are and what you do that's unique, and coming from a customer mindset as opposed to your own, promoting yourself.
Thank you for that. Again, so many insights there. I was trying to take notes, but I didn't get it all, I'm sure. Luckily, this is recorded. But I did want to hone in on a couple of key points, which is, I think, Kevin, you had said that, at the end of the day, what you want to be doing is you need to be solving real problems. And I think the other piece of that, those problems have to have value in the world. Like you said, someone's got to be willing to pay for them. And, Bijan, you just said that your key pivots came from really listening to your customers, and that helped to drive some of how your investors understand why they should be investing in you. And so I guess, turning to customers right now, what are the key things that you've been doing over time to both acquire your customers and retain them? And then I guess, with the shifts in the market over the last 18 months, do you see anything different that's happening? And what kind of response have you had to make as a company if you've seen any changes there?
I can jump in just from a customer perspective because we've made a few pivots, and we've pivoted into a bit more of a product-led growth. Just so everybody knows, I do not like product-led growth. We tried it before. I've got PTSD around it. Because anybody who's an expert in product-led growth, they forget to tell you that you've still got the hard journey of figuring out your product market fit. What's that value that somebody's going to buy from you? I think we've got to the inflection point now, and that's what everybody's stating. We've gotten to that inflection point. So now we're shifting into a little bit more of that product-led growth along the lines of how do we scale? Because even if you bring it back to the capital infusion side and trying to get money, the VCs like it when you're going after mid-market repeatable sales. And we last year were going after elephants. And at Bitstu, we went after elephants. And it's great. You can feed off an elephant for a couple of years. But these elephants are large behemoth organizations that can take about 18 months to 24 months to close. and that's feast or famine. Whereas VCs, and including myself now, I like more of that mid-market repeatable sales. So we're getting into more of the repeatable sales, mid-market opportunities, even though we're still chasing some enterprise deals with big banks, commercial real estate. Our goal is product-led growth, and that's now looking at how do we grow it fast? How do we look at churn? A lot of our customers are staying with us, which is nice because they're seeing the value and they can't go anywhere else. But the strategy has certainly shifted into more of a product-led growth, and it's my version of product-led growth. It's no one else's version of product-led growth, because the reality of a startup in our stage for Series A, and I think there was a question on the board, if I recall, how has my leadership role changed? I figured coming from BitStew that when I went into Charli, it could be a little bit more arm's length from the day-to-day. That reality was a total facade. I have to be in the weeds. I actually code. I do all those things. I enjoy it, for one. But I found at this stage, until you get to the inflection point, you better be hands-on. And that means you're living and breathing it every single day, including product-led growth. So that's why it's my version of product-led growth now. And it's not anyone else. It's not theory. It's I want to see the customer experience firsthand. I want to know how the customers are jumping on it, how they're staying in. And I live and breathe it every single minute of every single day.
Yeah, product-led growth, I think, is great when it's working for you. That's for sure. I think from D-Wave's perspective, in terms of like revenue growth, we're a very deep technology company. So for us, it's like getting to the surface of what the problems are that our customers are solving that they kind of care about. So like they're not interested in learning about quantum computing for its own sake. They're interested in finding out that like, oh, I can schedule, my grocery delivery fleet so they can get groceries to people's houses, and I can save 80% of my time in creating those schedules by using the technology, or like, IPG is doing promotional tour planning for major US brands. They were able to take that process of creating those promotional tours from several weeks down to under an hour. And when we were, looking at a company we were working with, Savantex, they were building a software for the Port of Los Angeles, and they were able to increase the amount of cargo they were handling at Pier 300 by 60% each day. So when you start having those kinds of conversations, then you're not talking about qubits anymore. You're not talking about quantum mechanics. You're talking about like people's operations. Your language is in their space. I think everyone here can kind of resonate with that. So be careful not to make that mistake. If you find yourself talking about the features of your technology itself, and you haven't kind of gotten up into that level yet. And there was also a question about partnerships. Working with partners, they're looking to you to teach them how to sell. So it's not unlike having your own sales team. So if you don't have any customers paying you for anything, it's way too early for partnerships, right? So if you're building a technology which has enough opportunity to create value that it can be valuable for you and for the partner, then you're in a good arrangement where you can then communicate to the partner, this is how you can get value and make money by selling this to your customer base. That can be really important because sales is all about relationships. People that trust that you can deliver a service and it will be valuable for them, and it will work, and you'll be there to make sure that it continues to run. So partners can be great there in terms of helping you out with that kind of growth. But if you haven't gotten to that point of seeing that product market fit and being able to describe your technology and show like, hey, we're seeing adoption in this area, so this is the area to focus in, it might be too early to go with partnerships. And so, just in terms of us, in terms of how things have changed in the last 18 months, with quantum computing technology, is that we've kind of made it there. The technology stack on our quantum computing systems is one that our customers can use. So we're making a dramatic pivot for the whole quantum computing industry away from experimentational to operational use, away from like toy problems to like problems at like enterprise scale, and away from like the potential future value to like quantifiable return on investment. And those are very strong signals. We're really excited. It's really taking off from that perspective.
So from our lens, we are selling an enterprise solution to the financial industry, to banks and people in the financial sort of whole ecosystem. And so therefore, I guess by definition, we are a bit of elephant hunters, and we do try and look for the smaller elephants. Our smallest customers essentially are Somebody like Van City would be at the bottom end of a customer for us in terms of size, typically. And they go all the way up to the top end. We aim to go for the sort of state level banks, for the mid-sized institutions, but we do have deals with, as I said, Santander and Discover and Amex and some large folks. I will say partnerships have been critical to us in terms of our expansion. Our initial couple of deals, including Moneris, were done by ourselves, by essentially our team internally. It was a bit of a guerrilla fight to get those first deals in there, and after that, and I will say this, just a little bit contrarian to what Murray said, we did sign up NCR as a partner shortly after the Moneris deal, and we had no revenue to speak of, but it was strategic. The reason it was strategic is that we had a capability that helped them sell more of their own systems, and therefore it did at that point serve us well. In time, it served us well, and it got us into the revenue flow. The partnership sort of question for me is foundational. I think we get our scale through our partners. They're an extension of ours. We need to improve our partnerships. We need to work on our partnerships. I mean, that's what we do. We've got some great partners. We've got new partners coming on. We've got some partners who are not doing well. But I think that is, for us, that is where we get our scale. We've got approximately 50 plus, almost 60 customers now in more than 35 countries around the world. And we're in Vancouver fundamentally. And that reach is there because the partners are on the ground. They're the ones with the relationship. They're the ones we help. They're the ones that drive the revenue, and they pull us into the sales cycle. And this side, with Murray, absolutely, we have to be there to help them sell. So their teams are smart enough to see the opportunities, plug us into them, and will call us in, and with our leverage, help them close deals. So for us, that scaling, the partnerships are crucial.
I saw that question also in the chat about retaining clients in the quantum computing space and whether it's easy. And I would just say it's not easy. You've got to work at it all the time. Fortunately in quantum computing, the pace of development is progressing really quickly. So that, I think, keeps a lot of people engaged. But our customers, just like anybody else, they have turnover. A key point of contact will leave the company. And so you've just got to keep working, building relationships and building that value for them all the time. So we work hard at it. But yeah, I wouldn't describe it as easy just off the top of my head.
Yeah, and maybe just to reinforce your earlier message, Murray, it sounds like that you need to be speaking in the language of the customer, and that is benefits, not product features, right? And so just keeping that top of mind as you move through the journey with them. I do see a question in the chat about that, continuing on the idea of strategic partnerships as well. And the question is, do you folks see any changes in sort of the trends? So the structures of those alliances, I think the comment was projects versus ongoing partnerships. Kevin, I think you said that some folks are staying with you, and I think it sounds like there's a mixed bag. But are you guys seeing any trends in how these alliances are being structured right now?
Nothing different, and a lot of it is coming down to how we approach alliances. We don't want casual alliances or just teaming agreements. We just signed a major exclusive deal with FactSet. That's one of the major data providers in the financial services community, and we're the only Gen AI company that they will trust with their data. And that's important to us, and it's important to them. So we view it as strategic, and it's becoming a fundamental part of our go-to-market strategy and how we're working with their 1,100 sales folks and how we're engaging them. And that's the key. So even if I go back to the BitStew days, we were not casual about our partnerships. We took them seriously. So you have to invest into them. You just can't sign and expect something brilliant to happen. You actually have to invest into training their sales force, working with them on a daily basis, making sure that they're in sync with you. We did that with GE back in the BitStew days. We're doing it with FactSet now ourselves. We are also talking to companies like Deloitte and SAIC, and they're very interested in what we're doing. And again, we're investing into those partnerships. We don't want to take them casually. But I haven't seen any difference in trends. I haven't seen anything even from my Bitsu days. It really is, the onus is on us to take it seriously and drive the relationship to make sure it's strategic.
Yeah, I would just add to that nothing to add to that specifically, other than maybe point out that there is, when you do go into strategic partnerships, you obviously have to be pretty careful about who you choose as well. You have to be. It is an important decision because if you were to turn around and take a strategic investment from a large partner, it's not necessarily a good thing, because you lock yourself out of other opportunities. It makes it more difficult to be sort of independent when you're going to other scenarios. So you have to be very careful in terms of strategically picking. You have to be strategic about picking your partner too. You really do.
I mean, I must have had like hundreds of partner conversations that we ended up not going forward with. And it's a classic mistake I think that startups make, is they're like, oh, I'll just partner with all of my customers and I'll partner with all the other players. You have to keep in mind that like, that's going to sap your effort. You don't have unlimited ability to do partnerships. So like choose really carefully. And if there isn't some sort of like money flowing one way or the other, or if you're not both trying to close a contract in the next 3 months, that's a red flag right there. And if they're asking you for exclusivity over your product, that's also another red flag. So we've had partnerships with NEC Australia, where it's helping to sort of bring quantum computing to the businesses in that market, and they've got relationships there. So that's a really productive business relationship. And we've been excited to announce a partnership with Zapata AI, where they have a lot of expertise in artificial intelligence, and we have a lot of expertise in quantum computing to make quantum generative artificial intelligence. So there are specific reasons, very identifiable. And I think usually a great partnership is like there's an immediate business opportunity, so people are willing to pay money for that. And if that should be present, that in the absence of that is something to keep your ears open for.
Maybe with my last question to this panel, so we'll have to do it speed round style, is we're all companies operating primarily here in BC, and Canadian. There's all sorts of I think uniqueness around the work we're trying to do. What do you think is unique about the tech sector in BC? And I'll have you match that up with, what do you feel are your ambitious goals for the future? What are you trying to tackle next with your either your products or your companies as a whole?
I mean, since we're doing speed round style, I would say like the tech community in BC is not afraid to do really big things, quantum computing, fusion reactors, and things like that. So I think that kind of thing is really exciting. And I think, building business value with our customers and making it easier for people to build applications, right? Like if you've got something that's valuable, you're trying to make it as accessible as possible. So I'm really looking forward to continuing to do that and seeing this success for our customers.
So from my perspective, we want to be a global player in solving fraud and cybersecurity, a single platform for payments ecosystem, financial institutions. That's what that's what our ambition is. We want to be global. We want to be right at the front end of that business. We're planning on growing our ARR and hopefully keeping on doubling it. I think that'll be a challenge. I don't think we can do that forever, but that's essentially where we're at. I think from a locally, just again, we have great talent, and we've got great universities. We've got great talent. The growth within the tech sector in BC is coming along really well, and that is awesome. That really helps us. I do hope, and we're a great place to live. Everybody knows that, so people don't mind moving to BC and moving to Vancouver. I think from my perspective, the area where I hope there's more evolution and things become better is in the whole financing world, in the financial options, in the financing, in the money, in the venture capital community, and the more and better. I look at California, and I think we've got a ways to go to get there.
Yeah, I'd agree with we've got a ways to go. I love the BC market. I love BC Tech sector. BC Tech sector needs BC Tech Association. We have to be clear about that, because there is competition in Canada for tech talent now, and it's just not a Vancouver story. You've got Toronto and Montreal, and we're competing head to head for talent there, and now you've got Calgary. And in the world of AI, that is drawing a lot of the VC attention to other cities away from Vancouver. So we just have to be mindful of that and keep the promotion up. And that means the universities, that means BC Tech Association, but it also means government to make sure that that focus remains here, because we do need more incubators. We need more VCs focused on the BC market. It's a phenomenal market. Now for us, what do I see for the future? It's simple growth. It's all growth. Deals, 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 logos, logos, logos. That's the entire thing I tell the team. Super simple. Deals. Just get deals. And that's our future. We also do want to set a high watermark in the world of AI because there's so much hype out there. I would say 99% of the companies I see, because I do due diligence on them as well, don't know anything about AI. Not all data scientists know anything about AI. Whereas our team has been building up for the last 5 years, and we are competing head to head with the Microsofts, OpenAIs, Anthropics, Coheres of the world. So I want to set a high watermark on what true AI really is.